Hi guys, so today I'm going to be focusing on abuse and neglect effects inside of the classroom. So I chose this topic because I am going to be an elementary school teacher in the future and I want to make an impact on kids' lives. So I work with students now after school and I see that a lot of them have behavioral issues and just needs that need to be met every day, whether it's an academic need, a social need, a basic need. Every day it's kind of different, and it's really important to me that I help meet those needs. Obviously, we can't meet every single child's needs, but we can try, right? So, child neglect impacts cognitive development and mental skills during early education, um, which I think is important to understand and know because we as adults, like our brains aren't even fully developed until we're like 25. And so if a student that's at the elementary level or even below is having all of these experiences with abuse and maltreatment, that's affecting their brain and how they're able to think and comprehend and know right from wrong. It's truly affecting the way that they are able to learn as well. So today we're kind of going to look at normal versus abnormal behaviors. So identifying abnormalities inside of the classroom. Teachers represent a fifth of all annual maltreatment reports made. I found this statistic in my case study, which I think is really important. We are mandated reporters, so when we're doing that effectively, we're making a difference. This case study was done, and students were basically asked to complete different frustration tasks, and how they responded placed them in 3 different categories. So the one that I wanted to focus on was maltreated students. So these students tended to be more withdrawn, anxious, and depressed, and showed to exhibit more disruptive and disrespectful behavior in the classroom. They're more likely to exhibit poor academic performance, so lower grades on standardized tests, and then more likely to repeat grade levels. So this concluded that children who experience child neglect are at a higher risk of maladaptation and cognitive development and other mental skills that they must learn in early years of education. So that kind of goes back to understanding that their brains aren't fully developed. And so those early experiences in their life is really affecting their brain. Another case study that I looked at tried to look at abnormalities through using standardized tests and then also observations. So group 1 tested to see if physically abused children performed worse on tests. And then group 2 tested to find maltreated students from a classroom based on only observing negative behaviors. So group 1, they actually found, I think, more physically abused children. So they were able to find physically abused children through the standardized test results. And then group 2, they were falsely accusing students of being abused or not abused, maltreated when they actually weren't. So they concluded to say that standardized tests are actually more useful than behavioral observations inside of the classroom. This case study that I looked at said that there are significant differences in verbal, memory, and general cognitive functioning in maltreated students. So going back to the early experiences, this is really affecting them. There's data recorded in 2 different ways. So one of the ways was a teacher filling out a child behavior checklist. So kind of going through all these behaviors and then giving descriptions or scores for each behavior. And then those scores led to the results to see how maltreatment and abuse were affecting the student. And then there is an analysis of a child's self-drawing. So girl students were asked to draw a picture of a woman, male students were asked to draw a picture of a man, and then these 3 judges who knew nothing about the kids were asked to analyze the pictures, and they found patterns between abused and neglected children and then non-abused and non-neglected children's pictures. So the results said that neglected children exhibited far more internalized behavior problems such as withdrawal and anxiety, which is what the first case study also had found. And then maltreatment is an additional factor over and above poverty that impacts on academic skills of these children. So maltreatment and poverty, I feel like a lot of people think are going together, which they do and they can, but maltreatment also needs to be recognized by itself. So my solution to this problem was to find the role of the teacher in all of this so that I can be the most effective teacher I can be. So some 4 main ideas to do this is providing a nurturing environment. This means providing a safe place for students to go because they aren't always getting that at school or at home. They're not always going to get that. And so I want to make sure that they're safe in my classroom and feel that way. Strategies to support child's adjustments. That's actually going to be elaborated on in the next slide. Providing support to caregivers, and then referring children for therapy. So these are some of those strategies. I think two of the most important ones on here are being good role models for students, because they're not always going to have that at home, and then spending time with children. So when you're making relationships and putting effort into a relationship with a child, they know that you care about them, and their parents or whoever they're living with, isn't always doing that. And so we don't know what's going on all the time, and I just think it's important to do with every child, but it's really going to make an impact, even though you might not think so. Also, another one that's not on here is being predictable at school, because a lot of children who deal with abuse and neglect and maltreatment, their life is just kind of unpredictable. They don't know what's going to be next. A lot of times with abused children, they don't always know if they're going to go home and their parents are going to be loving towards them, and then they're going to turn around and abuse them. So it's kind of unpredictable. It makes me think about the child called It, or the boy called It book. He kind of was always living on the edge, and his mom would treat him well one day, and then 5 minutes later, she would abuse him, and it's just horrible. So I kind of want to leave with these two quotes. First one says, "Sometimes it only takes a single teacher to turn a child's life around. Some children will come to school today because of that teacher. Be that teacher every day." So you don't know what kind of impact you're making all the time, but when you're putting in effort and you're making relationships and you're supporting students, you might be making the biggest impact in one of their lives and not even know it. They might be coming to school because of you. The second quote I want to look at is, "Students who are loved at home come to school to learn, and students who aren't come to school to be loved." So they don't always have a loving and supportive relationship with someone at home. And so this quote kind of just enhances that idea that it's really important. And I also kind of just want to go back to when we were doing our foster care unit, and we were asked to watch the YouTube video of the girl that was in and out of foster home, or she was moving from foster home to foster home, and she was really struggling because her parents were abusive and she couldn't be with her brother for a little while. I actually watched the second video because I wanted to see how the story ended. And at the end of that video, it showed her in the future, and she was a teacher, and she was telling her students that you don't have to let your situation define who you are and who you're going to become. And so that was really inspirational to me, and that meant a lot to me to see her in that role. So thank you guys for watching. Have a great finals week. We're almost done.